What's going on, Guardians? It's Tizzle here. So in this video, I just wanted to go over some good weapon options to bring into Grandmasters this season. They release on Tuesday, and it will release the first three. Well, really, it's just going to be Lightblade on Tuesday, and then the next ones will take place the week after, and then the week after that. And then we're into Act 2 of episode Revenant. So these three will release, and then with Act 3, we'll get these final three. And we should also get the GM node. But anyways, I don't like this setup at all. I hate time gating. I wish they would just release them all this Tuesday. Maybe they're going to surprise us and do that, but I highly doubt it. So yeah, it's going to be these three first and then these three. But anyways, there are some good options, and I do just want to show right here, the Grandmaster selection is 2030. That's where you have to be 25 under light. So yeah, early on, you're going to be very under light. And that's kind of why I'm making this video, because they did increase the power cap with this seasonal release, or this episode release of Revenant, to 2010. So you might want to level up some of these weapons. So I'll focus on Legendaries first, and then switch characters and talk about some exotics. So we've got Anti-Barrier Scout Rifle, Overload SMG, Unstoppable Pulse Rifle, Anti-Barrier Shotgun, Overload Breach Grenade Launcher, and then Kinetic Impacts isn't really working as intended, they've said, but maybe they'll get it fixed by Tuesday, but I highly doubt that, because yeah, those layoffs are really affecting the quality control of this game. So much shit is broken, not working. Concussive Reload, it says using a grenade launcher to damage a boss, damage a champion, or break a combatant shield weakens them. This is supposed to work on all GLs, but there are tons of heavy GLs that this is just flat out not working on. So don't expect a fix for that anytime soon, but I'm still just going to give recommendations based on kind of if these were working, but that's just something to note. Some of the heavy GLs do work, but like I've used Wendigo, it doesn't work. Edge Transit does work, so it's really hit or miss. So anyways, on to the Legendaries. You want a good Unstoppable Pulse Rifle. I really like Aisha's Care with Slice. It's good in high-end content because it can sever enemies. And then Anti-Barrier Shotgun, so basically just take your pick on a shotgun. Anti-Barrier Scout Rifle. I really like Hung Jury because it's got kinetic tremors. So does Patron of Lost Causes from last season. That is really felt. Anti-Barrier Scout Rifles feel like shit now because in episode Revenant, they made a patch change where you deal less body shot damage but more crit damage. So basically it's rewarding you for hitting crits, but on Anti-Barrier Knights, which Lightblade and Heist Battleground Moon both have in them, it takes like 1,000,000 shots to break the shield. It feels really bad. So something like Kinetic Tremors or some type of damage perk is really going to help. I have been complaining about Barrier Knights not taking crit damage for well over a year now. They still haven't fixed it, so I don't know if it's intended or what is going on with that, but it's super annoying. So yeah, Kinetic Tremors is very nice. Or something like Adaptive Munitions. This weapon adapts its damage output to be more effective against energy shields that don't match its damage type. Improves damage increase. So this is for something like solar shields or whatever, but it can also do more damage against barrier shields. So that's really nice. And then I have Genesis on this. Breaking a combatant shield with this weapon fills its magazine from reserves. This is a very good anti-barrier scout, but it's very situational. Also, we have Arc, Void, and Stasis Surge. I mean, the surges don't matter too much because if you're running these, then they're automatically overcharged when you have this on, but it's still just something to note. So yeah, anyways, Anti-Barrier Scout does not feel great, so I recommend something like Facet of Dawn, and then you could just use like a machine gun to take them out, or even rocket sidearms. I know they're not on the artifact at all, but if you're Radiant, these can pretty much one-shot a champion shield, and then if you have Volt Shot, that can also deal with overloads. So Indebted Kindness or something of the like is still very strong. I have Critical Anomaly and Succession on here because I wanted to talk about Sniper Rifles. Sniper Rifles got a huge buff in episode Revenant to everything but bosses, and they are absolutely smacking right now. So something with Vorpal Weapon is very good against champions. Or I've got this Critical Anomaly. So with Chill Clip, you can slow, which will stun an overload. You can freeze, which will stun and unstop. Granted, it does take 2 hits, so if you're using that on an unstop, it's not like ideal because they have so much damage resistance until you stun them. But the point is you can use it. And if you had Facet of Dawn or whatever, if you were running a solar subclass, which you probably wouldn't be. But anyways, then it can also get anti-barrier. So I did just want to point that out. And then the Mountaintop, Impulse Amplifier, Vorpal Weapon. This is really good at mowing down pretty much just any type of champion. Yeah, Vorpal Weapon, again, you're doing 15% more damage. Lingering Dread or the Liturgy from the Onslaught weapons this season can roll with Chill Clip and Disorienting Grenades. So very good and high-end content. And then obviously you can deal with Overload champions thanks to Overload Breach Grenade Launcher. And speaking of that, Lost Signal is getting a ton of play this season. Autoloading Vorpal is the role I like to go for. One for All is also nice for more ad clear, but this is better on like single targets like bosses and champions. So whatever you want to do. The Prophet, I've actually really been liking this in the few runs I've been doing this season. So Demolitionist and Precision Instrument. So helps you get your grenades back. Increases crit damage, but then again, that doesn't help you once you start going up against a barrier shield. But these aggressive frames are hitting very hard these days. And then if you wanted an Overload SMG, I like Imminence, but just whatever SMG you want to run. Again, back to the Overload grenade launchers. This one I have Repulsor Brace Destabilizing. I haven't got any with Attrition Orbs, but Attrition Orbs is also really good. Demolitionist would be good. I hope I get that roll eventually, but I've been loving this roll. And then again, just a good Unstoppable Pulse Rifle, Repulsor Brace Destabilizing, Explosive Payload Frenzy. So this is one of the better options for anti-barrier Scout Rifle. If you can craft a Doom of Kelkis, or you already have this one. Forbearance, depending on the Nightfall, is going to be really good because, like I said, it can deal with overloads. It can weaken champions. So yeah, still really good, even though Chain Reaction on Waveframes got a nerf. Vantage Point with Jolting Feedback, so you're going to be able to stun with Unstoppable, and you can apply Jolt for overloads and good ad clear. So try to get one of those from Onslaught. Or another good pulse rifle is Corrasion with Volt Shot. Yeah, just same type of difference. This requires a kill. This you can just lay into an enemy to proc Jolt. So they're both really good. These did get a bit of a nerf. They got an increase to their RPM, but they got a decrease to their damage. But they still feel really good. And then for heavies, Hullabaloo is decent. Again, GLs are really featured in the artifact this season. It's hit or miss if it works with this, but it should be working with that. So yeah, good ad clear. Wendigo, I really like autoloading Explosive Light. If you had that with a Attrition Orbs Velocity Baton, this thing's just gonna rip. I really like Explosive Light for like solo GMs. I threw Cold Steel in here just because it's got Eager Edge, so pretty risky playstyle, but it could deal with overloads and unstops, but you have to know what you're doing if you're running a sword and a GM. The old school Wendigo is the only heavy in the game that can disorient and get disorienting grenades, so that's got some play. Edge Transit is still as good as ever. I've been ripping through some Master Lost Sectors and Master Nightfalls with this. Still feels awesome. And then, yeah, just a good machine gun too, depending on the Nightfall. Like I said, you can just proc Radiant, and then this is pretty much your best anti-barrier option if you have Radiant going. And then, yeah, Bittersweet. I don't have the God Roll of that yet, but it's really good. Salvation's Grip has been feeling amazing. So yeah, now we're going to get into the exotics. So Salvation's Grip has been feeling awesome. Really good with stasis builds like this Mask of Fealty build. Thunderlord for overloads is just really, really nice. Could pair well depending on your build. And if you're running Arc, even though I'm still going to mostly be running Prismatic, but if you are running Arc, there is the one fragment where your heavy and special weapons can blind enemies. I can't seem to find it here. While you are amplified, your arc, special, or heavy ammo weapon final blows create a blinding explosion. So yeah, Spark of Beacons is really good, especially with something like Thunderlord. Could be good on Prospector as well. Darcy, don't sleep on it. Again, if you were running that Spark of Beacons, and you got a kill with Darcy, it's going to make a blind, and Darcy can jolt, so it's really good on overloads. I was using it lots last season. Grand Overture, people are loving it in the new dungeon right now. But if you didn't know, when you shoot your volley, yeah, missile explosions will blind combatants. So you can actually use that to blind unstoppables, which stuns them. The Lament is still pretty decent. Again, I don't like our anti-barrier options that much this season, so something to look at. Queenbreaker, again, mostly just because Arc is one of the surges this season, and it can blind on hit, which is pretty valuable. Legend of Acreus for anti-barrier shotgun. Again, you have to know how to play with it, but this thing absolutely wrecks champions, so it's very, very good. Tractor Cannon doesn't seem to be working with anti-barrier because it suppresses, so it's good for overloads. But I wanted to mention it. Leviathan's Breath for Unstoppable, and then Anarchy for the GL. Again, not sure how it's working with kinetic impacts and how it's going to work. And if it's working with concussive reload is really hit or miss, but it is just a very good option this season because especially with Arc Surge. So yeah, Anarchy, very, very good. Prospector is fun. Oh, I did want to talk about this weapon as well. Just an auto rifle with attrition orbs and jolting feedback. It's very, very good, especially if there's overloads because Jolt is awesome. Le Monarch for overloads. Graviton Lance is still really, really good this season. There are a couple like void centric artifact mods and then a couple arc ones. So like Trace Evidence and Retinal Burn could be really good with some of those arc ones I've showcased. And then Collective Obligation or Graviton Lance could work well with the Void ones. Ariana's Vow, very, very good, even though there's no Solar Burn, which is kind of the one thing holding it back this season, but it's very good against barrier champs. I'm curious to see if it will still one-shot body and stun the barrier in one shot. If it does, that's going to be very valuable. The problem is you can't run like anything to overcharge it. But like I said, our anti-barrier options are really weak this season, so definitely keep an eye on Ariana's Vow. Symmetry, I was messing around with it, and this is where I first noticed how weak anti-barrier scout rifles are on barrier shields. But if you do build up that dynamic charge, then the charge can actually hit pretty hard on those shields, and it's got lots of arc synergy. Teraba got a buff, and it's quite fun with Overload SMG. Buried Bloodline is just always good. Exdirus, apparently this didn't get the damage buff, but it did get a reserve bump, and it shoots a little nicer, and it's just still very, very strong. So if it does get that damage buff, it's going to be even better. But yeah, this thing is very strong. And then Icebreaker, especially if you're running stasis builds, is just absolutely awesome. I have been loving Icebreaker, running it with all my stasis builds. It's been so fun. So yeah, very, very good. It can cause ignitions, pretty much infinite ammo if you're using it right. So definitely good in the right build. And then, oh yeah, just another scout rifle. This can roll with Rhyme Stealer Headstone, which has a lot of synergy with all the stasis mods this season. So if you happen to get it, it might be good in one of your builds. Alethanum with all those GL things. This thing is really good, and it's going to get stronger in the second act. I think the Catalyst gives it 1 for all, so this thing's going to be really strong and really helps you with ammo economy. So really looking forward to messing around with that a bit more. Wicked Implement unfortunately doesn't work with anti-barrier scout rifle because it can slow and freeze, but still very strong. Outbreak Perfected for Unstoppable Pulse is going to be very, very good, especially depending on the boss. And if you like to run solo stuff, then Outbreak's always really nice. Gives tons of super energy, and it's good on ammo economy because you can use your primary to like take out champions and bosses just by dealing a ton of damage to them. Bad Juju, really good if there's a Nightfall with lots of like Thrall or like low tier red bars. This thing's absolutely going to chew through them and give you lots of super energy. Wither Horde, always really nice when the grenade launcher is on the artifact. Still one of my favorite weapons, over 20,000 kills with it, so really good. Huckleberry's been feeling amazing. I keep meaning to change this kill tracker because I've been using it a ton. Feels really good. Osteostriga is always extremely good with Overload SMG, so might want to bust that one out again. Verglas Curve was really good a couple seasons ago when I was running a ton of stasis builds, so still going to be really good. Even though there's nothing bow on the artifact, it can freeze, so it's good on unstoppables still, and just for mass ad clear. And then Wish Ender, just because I was talking about how weak the artifact is. So yeah, Wish Ender's nice. And one thing I didn't mention on my Hunter, but with anti-barrier shotgun, any shotgun with like Vorpal weapons, so this one has auto-loading Vorpal and it's a rapid fire, so it can chew through barrier champions very, very quickly. So yeah, that's a really nice roll as well. And then just gonna go to my Warlock and talk about a couple more exotics. So we've got Revision 0. Again, I don't like the anti-barrier options too much this season, and Revision 0 absolutely slaps, but something to note, I did go in and test. So I put Unstoppable Pulse on, and that does not overcharge something like Revision 0. You have to match the Surge. So if it was Stasis and Arc Surge, you'd have to run either the Arc or Stasis subclass, or an Arc or Stasis super to get it overcharged. So just something to note, you can't run Unstoppable Pulse and still make this overcharged. You're going to have to match the Surge. Conditional Finality, another one of those, because it's dual purpose, because it can freeze and ignite for unstops. They're not giving it anti-barrier. I think it's bullshit, and they should be more consistent with it, but that is just how it is. No Time to Explain could be decent. Chaperone got a buff. It could be decent, but again, on something like Barrier Knights, you can't hit crits, but hopefully it could still stun the shield in like one shot, and then it's gonna hit really hard as long as you're able to hit crits. And then Aegir's Scepter, I just love that weapon. It's so good in so many stasis builds. It can slow and freeze. Yeah, just an excellent weapon. And I think that was pretty much it. Yeah, so those are my weapon recommendations. Obviously, there's many more that I could point out and talk about, but those are the main ones that have synergy with the artifact. And like I said, our anti-barrier options aren't great, so something like Wish Ender or Revision 0 could be really, really good this season. So anyways, I hope it was helpful and informative, and if it was, a like and sub would be greatly appreciated, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.